Welcome to the second called meeting of this Budget Review Subcommittee. This meeting will now come to order. At this time, please call the roll.
Senator Kerr, Senator Parrott, Senator Wise,
Here.
Representative Banta,
Here.
Representative Bojanowski, Representative Fleming, Representative Flood, Representative Graham, Representative McCool,
Here.
Representative Miller, Representative Huff, Representative Riley,
Here.
Representative Tipton,
Here.
Chair West.
Here. We do not have a quorum yet, so we'll wait on the minutes. We have stragglers coming from other meetings. They'll be in shortly, probably. We have before us, if you would please identify yourself for the record, and then we'll jump right into it.
Yes, sir. I'm Paul Zarapata, KCTCS president.
Buddy Combs, Assistant Vice President for Financial Support Services.
Thank you so much. I'd like to remind everyone we have to do this every once in a while, the purpose of these budget review subcommittees. Our purpose is to, review budgets at a more of a granular level so we can take that information and report it to the overall committee, the overall Appropriations and Revenue Committee. So I don't know how long it's been. I was going to ask you guys how long it's been since KCTC has been before this committee. That's a loaded. You may not know the answer to that question, but I think it has been a little while. So we thought it was a good time just to circle back and get into a little bit more detail on how KCTC is doing and your budgets. So
This is my first time since October of 20. So if it happened, it would have been before that.
Gotcha. Okay. So you're free to proceed. We'll hear the presentation and then we'll allow members to ask questions.
Thank you very much. Before I begin, there should be a one-pager that's got budget information by college that you should have with you. And that's got state appropriations, performance funds, and then totals on that. Good morning. As I've mentioned, I'm Dr. Paul Zarapata, Kentucky Community and Technical College System President. And with me today is Buddy Combs. He's the Assistant Vice President of Financial Support Services. I appreciate the opportunity to be here today and to talk about funding and projects for our colleges. And I appreciate all of your support of higher education in the last session. And I know Dr. Thompson's in here somewhere. I want to thank him for CPE's leadership through this as well and uniting higher education in one front. If I may, I just want to take a few moments and talk about the system. I don't have to tell you that Kentucky families have been hit hard lately. There's a housing affordability crisis, vehicle shortages, needs for food, high gas prices, child care shortages. It's a lot. Add to that the tornado from December that struck western Kentucky and the most recent devastation from the flooding in eastern Kentucky, which is still a crisis. A real side effect of these things is that higher education is becoming more and more out of reach for people. They can't or don't want to leave their homes. They are just trying to get food on the table and don't have the money for tuition. They're serving as caretakers and can't make it to classes. But that's where we come in. Our system of colleges meets students where they are in your communities. It makes it affordable for them to get an education. It makes it so that they can do it while balancing other responsibilities. Never have our community and technical colleges been more important than now. Yes, we are higher education, but we're higher education for the real world. And when I say higher, I'm talking H-I-R-E, higher education. Our top priority is getting students educated and skilled, and whether that's to the traditional transfer pathway to a university or shorter-term certificates to get them out working quickly. We're committed to removing the barriers our students face and to making sure they have that efficient path. And this is not a knock on university partners, but when I hear stories about our employees, even our college presidents, delivering water, hauling mud out of homes in eastern Kentucky, offering them a place to stay, that's the kind of local, intentional, life-changing community that you cannot necessarily get if you go off to a university. I know there's been a lot of talk of a special session to help eastern Kentucky. Hazard and Southeast have both sustained millions in damages, and I'll be sending an email to Director Hicks later today to summarize the damages that we've had so far. Again, thank you for allowing us to present, and I will go into our presentation. So we have a pretty substantial footprint. We're roughly a 30-minute drive for all Kentuckians. We're about access and success. We meet folks where they are in life with on-ramps and off-ramps for continuous education and lifelong learning. You can see our students have a very different profile than a university student. Over 50% of them are first generation, nearly 60% are underprepared, 46% roughly are over the age of 25, and over a third of our students have got dependents. And last but not least, almost 32% of our students have an income below $20,000. Students are, they're very different. And sometimes the difference between them making classes and not making classes is a flat tire. They need a lot of costly wraparound supports, whether it be emergency funds, public transportation passes, food banks, tutors, success coaches, and many more. The great thing is that our students are from your community, and 1 year after graduation, 75% are employed in Kentucky jobs in your communities. That compares to roughly 60% for the 4 years. At some of our colleges, this is almost 80%. We have 5 sources of funding. We're going to detail those over the next several slides. We've got state appropriations, tuition revenue, grants and contracts, workforce solutions, and then charitable giving through the foundations. Here's our fiscal years 22-23 and 23-24. KCTCS receives 22% of the performance training pool, $21.5 million to be exact. And while we receive 22% of the pool, we have 40% of the students in post-secondary. These are our mandated programs. I want to make a note here. You'll see that the Kentucky Board of Emergency Medical Services, or KBEMS, is on here. They will officially transfer, is it the end of September or beginning of September?
Beginning of September.
Beginning of September, and so that budget will be lifted and pushed out to a state entity. We have some mandated programs, the KERS supplement, Madisonville and West Kentucky Aviations, which I'll detail a little bit later, and then debt service. Adulta Ag is $1 million. That provides educations in all facets of production and farm management. The Fire Commission, that's state fire rescue training for all firefighters across the Commonwealth. And then KCTCS trains funds, which I'll detail a little bit in a few more slides. We get one state appropriation for all 16 colleges. There is a base education and general funding, and then there is a separate performance funding model. So the education and general fund is basically the family of funds utilized for the core mission of the college. And again, KRS 164.092 put in a floor, and the funding formula for both sectors shall include a stop loss provision. You'll notice that some of our colleges didn't get performance-based funding this year. There was 4 of them actually. So 12 did, 4 did not. Traditionally, this has been 6 colleges that haven't had it, but this year Madisonville and Ashland were able to receive those funds. So those 6 Cole colleges that traditionally haven't gotten them, our performance-based model skews a little towards volume, which you'll see in your breakdown sheet here. The 2 highest earners of the performance-based funds are our 2 largest colleges, and so that's Bluegrass in Lexington and Jefferson in Louisville. All performance funding pools are distributed on a non-recurring basis and are reallocated the next year based on this model calculation. And one thing I did want to make sure that you knew is that the system office does not get performance-based funding money or any of the direct appropriations. There's been some confusion, I think, in the past that we're taking all this money in and doling it out as we see appropriate. I'll talk about what we do in the system office because I think that's not well known either. I like to call it a franchise headquarters. We focus on things we can do at scale, and whether it be our purchasing power of 16 colleges or running HR and payroll and IT, cybersecurity, networking, accounting, purchasing, workforce, professional development, legislative relations. These are all the things that we do from the system office so that the colleges can focus on educating their students. You know, it's a lot of the back office things that we do. Talk a little bit about tuition. For in-state and online, it's $182 a credit hour. That goes all the way up to $637 a credit hour for out-of-state students. And again, tuition generated was $216.7 million, and each college retains that tuition revenue. Want to point out here, the next closest to us in cost of the public universities is Kentucky State University, but we're still $1,500 less expensive. Trains funds, back in 2000 or so, this was branded as Kentucky Wins. We rebranded it as or I believe the legislature rebranded it as Trains in 2014. Since then, we've had 307,828 enrollments in this. The in-demand trainings, particularly high right now, are CDL, nurse aid, lean training, technical trainings, such as fluid power and robotics, and welding. Even with COVID, fiscal year 22 was the highest performing year in Train's history. 240 unique projects, 136 new companies that we've been able to work with, and 104 returning company clients. I'd like to think this is because I've put, and we have as a system, a heavy emphasis on workforce and economic development. The transfer mission is always going to be important, transferring students onto the universities, but we've also got that workforce mission. Let's see, so there are 4 projects here. I'll talk about each one of them. 2 of them are managed by the Council on Post-Secondary Education. The Healthcare Workforce Initiative, we have $4 million of that $10 million total. Our project proposal was actually just approved last Saturday. Projects range from system-wide support of nursing faculty, graduate education, college healthcare programs, modernizing equipment, which is very expensive, as well as competency-based education offerings. We have a very unique project, which I'm sure you all know about, the Commonwealth West Healthcare Workforce Innovation Center. This is a partnership between Owensboro Health, KCTCS colleges, and 7 university partners. We're kind of in the beginning of this right now, but the executive director has been hired. Several institutions have already implemented nursing fast-track programming with high school dual credit programs, and accelerated patient care technician, phlebotomy, and SRNA training programs for adult students to meet healthcare institutions' immediate patient care needs. The Workforce Development Trust Fund, we have proposals that address 23 credentials across all 5 targeted employment sectors. These have all been approved by the Council on Post-Secondary Education. 6 are in healthcare, 6 in construction and trades, 6 in transportation and logistics, 4 in advanced manufacturing, and 1 in business and IT. I'll give you a few examples. Big Sandy and Bluegrass are going to focus with these funds commercial truck driving. Gateway is going to expand their utility line worker program. Madisonville is going to be expanding their CDL and lineman programs. Maysville is going to be implementing computerized manufacturing and machining. And I'll give one more example. Southeast is going to have certified nursing assistant to Kentucky Medication Aid. We also received 2 appropriations of $900,000 each, one in Western Kentucky at Barkley Regional Airport, and the other one in Madisonville. We are still in the early stages of discussion with Dennis Rulo, the CEO of Barkley Regional Airport. He is negotiating on either building a new hangar or renovating an existing one. Once that's determined, we would have to put in an FAA application. We're hoping that we could open this in fall of 2023. In Madisonville, they're going to be using these funds to expand a program that they already have in aviation flight programs. They've got airframe curriculum needs, power plant, personnel costs, and then aircraft leases will be a big focus of this. Lastly, is asset preservation. I want to sincerely thank the legislature for, our match is only 15% on the dollar for asset preservation. That really helped us get a kickstart. So we'll have some projects and just much needed. And, unfortunately, the destruction in eastern Kentucky didn't help anything. So, and then again, the two Elizabethtown projects will be in direct development with the S. Kane Blue Oval project to help train that needed workforce. We're trying to look down the road. We know that the battery plant is going to employ a lot of people, but all of the businesses around that and leading up there, I think we are going to see a huge influx from, Nashville all the way up to Indianapolis, down 65. We have, huge opportunities. It's a little terrifying, the number of people we're going to need to bring in and do this. I think we can get it accomplished. We've got the right people in place, and I think this is just a really good time for the state. With that, that's the end of my presentation. Chair West.
Thank you so much. Great presentation. We're collecting questions now. I'm gonna start us out with a few. My first question is total budget. We have on here the state appropriation, but one of your slides showed the breakdown, state appropriation, tuition, grants, workforce, and foundation. What is the total, once you figure in all those, what is the total number of the budget?
Buddy,
So for the total,
it's a little over 800 million of it.
yeah, it's right almost 900. Yeah.
Around 900 million?
Yes.
Okay.
And that does include one-time COVID funds that
Yeah,
we're
we
still.
still have COVID funds that are included in that.
Could you provide that to the committee, a copy of that? We may have it, I don't know. Okay. Second question, on the foundation, are you at liberty to say how much money is in the foundation?
We can get that to you. We have one foundation in the system office. Well, Buddy's got it right here. Johnny on the spot. We will provide you this spreadsheet. Total across all foundations, we have a little over 19 million.
Okay. Yeah, if you could just provide that to the committee
Sure.
as well.
Thank you.
Moving to the slide where you referenced what happens at the system office. How much of that money flows back to the system office? Question one, and then question two would be currently how many employees do you have at the system office?
You have that on you.
What flows back to us? It's about out of that. It's about 60 million flows back into the system office, and I'll double check that and get that to you. As far as the number of employees, I think we're right around 289,
289.
and I'll get the numbers for that as well.
And
that includes fire commission, right?
That includes fire commission. Sorry, yes.
do you happen to know off the top of your head how many of those employees are fire commission?
Not off the top of my head, no.
Okay. As chronologically, could you step back in time and isn't that 289? Isn't that a low number compared to where you have been?
I believe so.
At one time, wasn't there around 400 employees? Is that true or not?
I can't say that we were that far up, but I can check
okay.
that on employees.
Yeah, just where have you been? What was your high point? Where have you been? I see somebody nodding their head there in the background. So.
Okay, good.
Geez.
Yeah, we're under where we were before. We've tried to right
Yeah.
size back in, I want to say 2012. Even though we don't get direct appropriations, when higher ed got budget cuts, we took those same cuts across the system office. So we eliminated a lot of positions. We didn't rehire positions. Right now, we're kind of going through something that many others are with a great wave of retirements. And so we're trying to evaluate those things and really take a hard look at every position as it comes up to see what can be worked into other areas. Do we really need to be doing this centrally, or is it better done regionally or locally at the college?
Okay, thank you. This is my final question, then we'll open it up to other members. I know this is still early, but do you have any initial data or idea on the destruction of the Eastern Kentucky campuses? Do you have a possible price tag on that yet?
Last I had heard for at Hazard, was it north of 15 million?
Yes. So for Hazard, we're estimating anywhere between 15 to 20 million. And then Southeast, the numbers are still coming in, but it's anywhere between 3.5 and 7 million is what they're estimating. And we're providing that information to Director Hicks later on today.
Okay, perfect. Sorry, I was unaware of that.
Yeah.
And I would assume, with the talk of a special session, it would be good to get as much information as you could on that. So, Co-Chair Tipton.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Dr. Zapata, appreciate you being here today. Just to follow up a little bit on that last question I was in Southeast Kentucky last week, and I saw firsthand just the devastation that's down there. I know the question was about buildings, but what about your students? You've got people who have lost their homes, who have gone through a very traumatic experience. Are you getting any feedback from your students on what their needs are, and what resources does the colleges down there have for those students?
I've been getting copy on the emergency financial aid requests from students, and it's been just heartbreaking to see it's hard to read some of them, I'll put them that way. The devastation down there is one of our presidents came out with a team of people to help clean out houses. They've got mud in them. He was a wreck on the phone the other night. It is, I thank God that we didn't lose any students, faculty, or staff. We didn't lose lives, but this isn't going to be a quick fix. This is going to take years and years and years of rebuilding. Our students face so much as it is. This is just one more thing. If I'll say anything about Eastern Kentuckians, though, is they're resilient. I guarantee you that this will be a comeback. We're working with them as much as we can to provide the wraparound support services that they need. We've delayed the start of the semester. We know that some students aren't going to be able to come back this semester. And so, we're going to be very lenient with them, work with them as best we can. We do have, within any given semester, we have start and stop dates all throughout the whole semester. And so they can start up, or they can start up over the winter program or start up in spring. So we're going to be flexible. We'll meet them where they are, but it's, right now, it's like Maslow's hierarchy of needs out there, and they're just trying to find food and housing and help their neighbors. And, it does give me hope, though, when you see the number of people that have come out all across this state and out of state to come and help. But it's going to be long. The pictures are just unbelievable. I've never seen anything like it.
Yeah, I like I said, resilience, a word I heard a lot and thought of a lot while I was down there. It's my understanding that the Breathitt County school system, their ATC, was very severely damaged. And I've heard there may be conversations about using KCTCS facilities. Are those type of conversations going on? And is the colleges, are they going to be able to support our K-12 schools in those ways?
I don't know exactly the specifics on that, but we will certainly reach out. And I know they are having discussions with K through 12 on use of facilities and dual credit instructors, and everything's been disrupted right now. So, but we certainly, at any opportunity we've got, we'll work in collaboration with them.
Mr. Chairman, if you'll indulge me, I have a couple more questions.
Please proceed.
2021 special session. We appropriate $25 million for a new building in Hardin County to work along with the new battery plant. Could you give us an update on the progress and when that's expected to be completed?
Buddy, do you have?
I don't have any estimates on when it will be completed. I know that they're working now in excavating the property down there, but I can get back with you on some estimated time
But
frames.
it should fall in line with the construction at the battery plant.
Yes.
Okay, very good, very good.
Absolutely. We are working on curriculum right now so that's going to be in place. It's taken a while. It's been, there's just trying to find out where they're going to build our training
Sure, you
center.
need to align the curriculum to their needs.
Yeah.
And there are going to be supplemental businesses that come in to support that as well. Plus, you got the battery plant in Bowling Green as well. So there's
Yes.
a lot of opportunities there, lots of needs. One of your slides, you referenced the percentage of unprepared students who come in to community college. I read an article this week that there's a lot of concern about incoming freshmen because of the last 2 years. of COVID isolation that a lot of students are coming in not prepared. Is that something you're concerned about? And what are you all doing to try to mitigate that?
Well, it's taking a lot of extra work by our faculty and advisors and support staff. This slide is actually from 2019. It's not, we're hoping to get this updated very soon. My guess is our underprepared is way north of 57%. Of course, and it varies, I think, by district of how much rigor was in those courses, and a lot of people don't do very well online. So I know we're seeing difficulty. I don't have the latest percentage numbers, but I know that it's a struggle for sure.
Okay. A couple more. It's my understanding that Bluegrass Community College is working in partnership with Eastern Kentucky University on a new program, a teacher pipeline. I have had some conversations with Commissioner Glass and President Thompson on this. I would hope that's something we can expand statewide.
Absolutely.
Could you comment a little bit about how that program works and how it will benefit the students who are going in to prepare for teacher education?
Yes. So what it's going to do is it should shorten the length of time it takes for students to get out with the degrees necessary in order to teach in K through 12. That is something that can be definitely replicated across all of our colleges. We're looking at any, like we do with everything, we're going to take a look at this, find out what's working, what's not working, make adjustments, and then expand it out. I'm also looking very closely at the Owensboro collaboration. I think that's something that could work in other parts of the state as well to help us put out allied health workers quicker. It's all about reducing that time to degree and getting them out in the workforce.
And with this budget, we now have 12 hours of dual credit
Yes.
in high school available for students, so that's another thing that can shorten. What's your 3-year graduation rate right now?
That I'll have to get back to you on.
Okay. And I guess talking about 3-year graduation rates versus 2-year, if we can sooner we can get them out, the less expensive. On that partnership, when that student transfers from Bluegrass to EKU, do they pay the 4-year tuition or do they pay the community college tuition for the last 2 years? I'm just curious if that was part of that or not.
Yep. I believe they pay our tuition for the first 2 years, then they'll pay EKU's tuition.
Their tuition, okay. And one last question. We had some discussion in the budget discussions this year about House Bill 8 and the amount of the supplement for KERS. I know we worked to mitigate that, so I guess my question is, are we good now with the amount of the appropriation to meet that need?
Yeah, and I can't, let's see here.
I see Buddy thinking.
That's a load.
Because there was some question about whether or not the amount that was appropriated would be sufficient to meet that supplement.
It really isn't. I mean, our monthly payment for House Bill 8 for our KERS is $700,000 a month, and we only got $800,000 in the budget to supplement that. So basically, we paid 1 month worth of the annuity that we're paying back to KERS over the next 30 years.
Okay.
So
I have to go back and review that language and how that was worded originally.
yeah, so we get we've got $854,900, but our monthly annuity that we're paying KERS each month is $700,000.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Representative Banta.
This is going to kind of piggyback on Representative Tipton. When you're talking about getting kids in the pipeline and getting them out, let's say I come to you with a 4-year degree, master's degree, whatever, but all of us, I've decided I want to be a phlebologist. Mm-hmm. Do you look at the classes?
Yeah.
And so you are specifically training to get them out in the pipeline?
Yeah, so we're putting a deep focus on credit for prior learning, and that includes, transcript review and all that to make sure, particularly with our military, because there is so much of a crossover between what they learn in the military and what they've got equivalents of. But yes, that's absolutely something that we do. One of the things that we've talked about a lot is the need to really start speaking with children and parents all the way down, maybe even in 5th and 6th grade, but definitely in the middle schools, to start getting interest in allied health and advanced technology. And many of the things that, what we're seeing is that when they're getting to us, they've already been coached, that maybe I don't want to do allied health because it's, I don't want to do those kinds of things. And so it's really getting that information out there. We're making a deliberate approach to do that. I've got a selfish interest. I've got an 8th grader that I want to see make, the right career choices. And I think it's great to expose them to some of these things early so that they know what they like and they don't like.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Just got a couple more questions and we'll wrap it up here. And I'm not opposed to, this meeting ending early. That's very
That's never a
unusual.
bad thing.
That's never a bad thing. So, how many students do you currently have?
We
Or
are,
projected
so
to
if you
have.
go year over year, in the last year we were just under 100,000. This year our enrollment, I don't know exactly where we're at. Do you recall?
No.
We're up 2% year over year. this
Roughly
fall.
100,000.
Yeah.
And so, the fire commission students are counted in that 100,000, correct? Do you have any idea what percentage?
I don't know what
The fi-
percentage that is. They used to have fractional hours for credit, and so
Okay.
but
So part of a student.
part of it, yes. I don't know
okay.
exactly what their I don't know what the percentage makeup is, but that's something we can certainly find.
We would like to see that if you could
Yeah.
please provide that. And this is my final question relating to alignment. And I'm off on a tangent here. So this is anecdotal from some constituents.
Sure.
When was the last time you all spoke with the comprehensives UK and U of L on credits transferring? Obviously, we want to make sure that if you're going to the community college system for 2 years, all those credits
Right.
hopefully transfer. I hear there's some problem and some issues with that. Do you talk about that every year, or
We talk, as a matter of fact, Dr. Thompson was part of the initiative that actually passed legislation that all of our credits have to transfer. Now, the issue that happens sometimes is that the credits they take with us don't necessarily align with the program that they transfer into. And so they may have credits for things that aren't necessary at the university. We do work with that. That's an advising thing. We need to, I can't address how often that those conversations take place, but it really is an advising issue more than they're not accepting our transfer credits.
gotcha? And Dr. Thompson will be up in a second. We can maybe cover that when he gets up here. But yeah, we want to be vigilant on that. I think I can't speak for the General Assembly. I can speak for myself. I think it's our intention that as many credits as possible will transfer over, and that way students aren't blindsided.
Well, and it's really important in high school too that these students and their parents are advised to
Right,
take
exactly.
the right credits, because the same thing can happen if they take a bunch of credits that don't necessarily transfer into the program that we're offering.
Yeah.
Then that's when I get the angry parent saying, that my son or daughter just took 18 credit hours and now 6 of them don't transfer over, and so
And
that's
that could
an
be
advice.
a part of the problem, obviously, is not getting proper advice at that
Yeah,
early
so
stage.
it's advising, working with our K through 12 advisors, but also with universities. And so we just recently signed a dual enrollment agreement with Morehead State. And the nice thing there is that these students get interactions from their freshman year with Morehead State advisors. And so it's that much easier that when they're done with us, they move on with Morehead.
Perfect. Representative Tipton, did you have additional question? Okay. Seeing no further questions, we appreciate the presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate you.
You've checked the box for the year.
Thank you again.
You're welcome. Next on the agenda, we have Kentucky State University, if they would come forward. If everyone would please identify themselves for the record, and then we'll proceed.
Aaron Thompson, President of the Kentucky Council on Post-Secondary Education.
Ron Johnson, interim president at Kentucky State University.
Gerald Burnett, acting chief of staff at Kentucky State University.
Dr. Gerald Shields, Vice President for Finance and Administration and Chief Financial Officer.
Thank you so much. And if we could just, we'll try to tie up the last presentation. Dr. Thompson, I don't always remember everything we pass up here. So if you could comment on, the transfer, we have a law to that effect, but is that working properly?
The law is working actually really good. There's 3 issues that we should be aware of here when we think about items that are not transferring. One is, and we see this a lot in our nursing pipeline. For an example, they may take a course that doesn't fit into that nursing program when it goes to a 4-year institution. That's different than what the law says. Law says that all pre-major and all of those courses at KCTCS must be transferred into a programmatic situation, and that is working. Where it's not working very well is when we have specialized programs that are designed around clinical issues, number one. Number two, if it's a technical at the community college, obviously 4-year institutions don't have those. So that's where some of the problems lie also. Now, number 3, and Representative Tipton, I think, is actually alluding to some of this in his earlier statement, that we need to do a better job of aligning our dual credit into a curricular pathway, into a program, that making sure those transfer. We still see too often kids taking 36 hours, and 20 of them may not even work. So some of those issues, what you're hearing about. But the transfer law actually is the best in the nation, and it's working great. So for what it's designed for, the others are going to have to be a better articulated system. So what your problem, and I've got some of this. By the way, if there's a problem, if you will, with those courses not transferring, actually my office is the final arbitrator on those, and we'll fix those. If it arises to us, we address those when it gets to that point. But KCTCS and the 4-year institutions have to go through the process of working it out first before it gets to us to make that decision. What we do have is an advising issue. Paul was absolutely correct. But it's an advising issue all the way from high school now, because we've got so many dual credit hours that's going into that transfer pipeline. So these are the issues that are not unique to any state. Actually, Kentucky's done really well on their transfer law, and people are modeling that. So I just wanted to separate those 2 particular issues at hand. I did also want to answer, if you don't mind, a couple of questions Representative Tipton brought up. I did go through Eastern Kentucky. That's my hometown, home area, as you all know, devastating. And I think if you haven't had a chance to really, you can see the aftermath now, but I was there that Saturday of when all the flooding, and I'm not young, but this is the worst that I've seen in that neck of the woods, even in my lifetime. The third thing about preparation, as you all know, CPE, last year and this year, we did 25 bridge programming with our campuses and our K-12 around the state. Learning loss is clearly there, and it's going to be there more. But we also have a lot now more social and emotional and mental health issues that are now combining with that to exacerbate that even at a larger level. So somewhere along the way, I think we really need to have a solid conversation about this, and not just the COVID effects, but exactly like the flooding, like the tornado, all these things that are displacing kids in many ways, and not just the physical place, but in other places. So thank you, Mr. Chair.
I really appreciate that. Covers it all. Really appreciate the update. Makes sense. Sounds like we need to work on some advising issues, but that's another topic for another day. So before you start, feel free to proceed. This is basically a status report. Where do you stand? And in case you haven't picked up on it already, I think that it's the intent of several of the chairs, myself, Co-Chair Tipton, maybe Senator McDaniel, that we have you in here once a month. And so I just wanted to prepare you for that, let you know that, communicate that with you. But there's no specific purpose today, just status report. So floor is yours. Feel free to proceed.
Well, thank you, Chairman West. And I want to also mention that we're joined by the chairman of our Board of Regents.
If you could pull that mic just a little.
I'm sorry.
There you go.
Right there. We're joined by the chairman of our Board of Regents, Dr. Gerald Patton. He's actually here via, I guess, Zoom or electronically. Again, I'd like to thank you for giving us this opportunity to come and update. And I appreciate that it is important that we are here to let you know the steps that are being taken. There are a number of steps that have been taken thus far. This is my second month in town, second time here, and second month in terms of the role of interim president at Kentucky State University. We have begun the process of implementing some new processes and with a plan toward opening up the campus. Those new processes, of course, are being met with a number of challenges, and so we will talk a little bit about them in the context of where we stand in terms of our enrollment, and then also where we stand in terms of housing. But before we begin, I'd like to ask my colleague, Dr. Burnett, to just share a bit of his background. I asked Dr. Burnett to join in this endeavor, and he agreed. He is a former Air Force officer, and so he was duty-bound to come from a neighboring state. And so I'll turn it over to him to introduce himself, and then we will go to Dr. Shields, who's our interim CFO. He'll talk about enrollment, and then back to Dr. Burnett, who will talk about housing.
Good morning, Chairman West. Can you hear me?
Oh, no, this button.
Okay, can you hear me? Thank you. It is indeed a pleasure to be here. I'm Dr. Darrell Burnett. I'm a retired lieutenant colonel from the United States Air Force. I served pretty much all over the country during that 22-year term when I was in the military, and I retired and transitioned over to higher ed. I've worked at a number of institutions across the country. Most recently, the 4 schools that I've worked at have had financial difficulties very similar to what we're experiencing here at Kentucky State. Central State in Ohio, Jackson State in Mississippi, as well as Russ College in Mississippi, private school. But the 2 public schools were Jackson State and Central State. I was indeed happy to hear from Dr. Johnson for me to come and help him out and to help the school out. So it's indeed a pleasure, and I'm eager to help and share what I've seen so far this year.
Dr. Shields?
Yes, I'm Dr. Gerald Shields. I'm the other bookend, but I'm Army, So, he has 2 commitments on both sides that was called to duty here. I'm great to share with you that our budget was built off of 1,459 students. We currently have 965 have actually cleared financially. Of these students have cleared financially, none of them have back balances. Now, this was one of the key things that was brought up about the school, not having students carrying back balances. We made sure this has been a challenge. It's been a change in culture. You're going to hear some grumblings about it, but the school is going to be a lot better off for it. We need about 494 students to complete this process to close and meet budget. But we have the potential of probably about another 513 that I believe that we will be able to receive to give us an enrollment total of 1,478. This is also, of course, based off of full-time equivalents, which is 15 credit hours per student to meet those numbers that I've just shared with you. Our budget is financially, we're coming along very, very strong with the gracious and most appreciative $23 million that you've given the school. We are, for the first time that I've heard in a number of years, we have no cash flow issues, but we do have had some challenges in personnel. And by that I mean that I'm being able to hire personnel, being able to maintain the personnel. So we're continuing to work to try to get this solidified so that we're being able to move the college forward. We have completed our fiscal year 2021 audit. We have about 96% of that completed. We have about another 4% that needs to be revisited before it's ready for a complete audit for our external auditors. And we are starting to work for our audit for fiscal year 21-22, which we anticipated being completed between late October or the first part of November.
Dr. Burnett?
I'm going to give you an update on housing because, as the gentleman said earlier in the earlier deliberation, recent developments have increased the demand for housing on campus. As he had pointed out, and we're experiencing the same thing, Kentucky State offers a healthy environment. We have nurses, we have counselors, and parents, not students, parents are eager to ensure that we have those elements there to take care of their kids. We're safer. As you know, if you turn the news on, you have all kind of issues across the country, politically, socially, everything that's going on, changes in gun laws. Another reason why parents want their kids in a much safer environment. We offer 24/7 public safety patrols, and that's another reason why there's an uptick in demands. Affordability. We've seen inflation, increases in fuel, increases in living accommodations. All of those things have driven those parents to send their kids to schools where they can provide on-campus housing. So as a result, 6 months ago, we were not in tune to those particular demands. So if you've read or heard the recent news about Kentucky State, those are some of the challenges that we're dealing with. So presently, we have 1,459 registered budgeted students. Of that, we have 965 beds. So right away, you'll see a shortfall in beds to accommodate those students. Of that 965, 720 are on campus. And we were also successful in securing hotel rooms to accommodate 242 students. So that's where we're currently at right now. The continuing students, and I'm talking about juniors and seniors, are beginning to arrive on tomorrow, and they'll be coming in and through 4 o'clock on Saturday. And we'll try to house or accommodate as many of those as we possibly can. But at the end of the day, we will still have a shortfall of housing to accommodate our students. Now, the good news is that we have a dormitory that's being constructed as we're speaking, and it's scheduled to be open in January of 2023, and that's going to provide us with 408 additional beds. And so hopefully as we get through this particular storm, we'll see brighter lights as we get through the second semester of the school year, and we'll keep you updated accordingly, Chairman West.
Yes, and I would like to interject, Mr. Chairman, that the building is coming along quite well, and it's reaching each one of the milestones that has been set forth for its completion to be done by January. It looked like it's going to be a fantastic building in addition to the community as well as to the campus.
Thank you.
Well, that completes our update, and of course, we are here and welcome your questions and insights.
Dr. Thompson, you have anything to add right now? Or?
Well, we have an update on HB 252. We can take questions
I
after
say we
all
take
of this.
questions and then we'll circle back,
Okay.
if that's okay with you.
Sure.
I think Representative Tipton Co-Chair Tipton has a question.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And Mr. President, I'd read those news articles as well. So I was planning. I'm glad you all talked about it, because if you hadn't, I was going to ask you about it. But I know that's a concern in past conversations. I know there's been a situation where students have been resided in hotel rooms in the past, and that was at an additional cost to the university. And part of the goal of the new dorm was to eliminate that cost. I guess my question is about the status of your current dorms. How many of them are in need of repair? I know a few years ago, I took a tour, went through an older dorm. I mean, are there buildings sitting there that could be refurbished? I mean, what's the availability there to help you meet additional need as hopefully the university grows?
Well, I'd like to speak to that, and then, of course, my colleagues can add. The dorms that we have on the campus are old. And one of the main difficulties in terms of one that has a number of units offline is that the way it was constructed, it was not constructed properly. And then second, it is not configured for air conditioning, modern air conditioning. And as a result, the pipes clog, they break, and if the pipes don't clog, then you wind up with moisture that leads to mold, which then, of course, our number one responsibility is health and safety, and as a consequence, we have to take the unit offline, bring in contractors to work on it. With the addition of the 408-bed resident hall, that then gives us an opportunity to really assess whether or not some of the housing units should essentially be removed from active use, and consideration for and ask for consideration for support to provide new facilities. This has been going on for quite a long time. In my inquiry, when I asked about this challenge, I was told it's been going on for 10 to 12 years. And my response is 10 to 12 years. That's a half a generation. That's ridiculous. So what we're trying to do now is we're going to pull, our team together and really start the process of assessing. I know that we have resources to improve some of the Commonwealth-owned properties, but the question is it worth it? And that's the question that we're going to be working on.
Well, please continue to keep us updated on that as we move forward. I know you all also have asked for funds for a new nursing building, healthcare building. Yes. So I know there are a lot of needs there. So we'll appreciate the opportunity to continue these updates and keep the conversation going on these needs as we move forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. We have no further questions at this time. So President Thompson, if you could proceed with your presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll invite Travis Powell to the table if he's somewhere around there. A couple of points I want to make. You're probably getting some input from folks on some of the items that we've done with HB 250 under the guidelines of making sure we get a financially stable institution as well as an overall organizational stable institution. So, for an example, we do have faculty and staff tenure put on hold right now and promotions. We hope they won't lose their positions, but we have to make sure we have a balanced budget there. There's a lot of great things that we are ultimately going to do, no doubt about it, but to do those items, clearly need to say that we have to get a base by which we work from it to build it back the way it should be built. So as you get information, Representative Tipton and I talk probably way more than he wants to, but the idea that we are happy to try to address with the current administration on campus any sort of inputs that some people may have. But, bottom line, we're going to work hard to make sure that the stability is there and the thriving of the campus is going to move forward. There's a lot of stuff that's happened on HB 250 up to this point. I did want to thank Interim President Johnson and his team for working so closely with us. You know, I'm sure at times we probably look like a pest. We hope that's not the case, but it is our goal at CPE to ensure that KSU is in the place it needs to be. So I'm going to let Travis kind of give you a quick update about where we're at so far.
Sure. Thanks, Dr. Thompson. I'm Travis Powell, Vice President, General Counsel at the Council on Post-Secondary Education. And I just want to piggyback off those last comments you made, Dr. Thompson. It has been a very collaborative environment with President Johnson and his new team. We are involved in any conversation that we want to be in. They keep us fully informed on what's going on. Dr. Stephanie Mayberry is our Senior Director for KSU Relations. She has an office in Hume Hall right down the hallway from the President, and she is involved in all aspects of planning for the semester to begin and other aspects of the institution. So we are fully engaged with KSU right now and feel very confident that we'll be able to meet the goals in House Bill 250. The faculty and staff performance review is underway. That policy was adopted for both faculty and staff at the July 15th KSU board meeting. We worked very collaboratively with staff there in the provost office to get that and the HR office to get those in place. And that process is begun. Faculty are being trained in the system to get all their materials uploaded so those can be reviewed. And by mid-October, so we plan on meeting the deadline for April to have those initial House Bill 250 faculty and staff reviews completed. One project of note, we are in collaboration with our organization and with the City of Frankfort. KSU is exploring the logistics related to a grant award for a 12-week online certificate program in cybersecurity that's funded by the U.S. Department of Labor. So we're very excited about that. Working on hopefully getting not only just a certificate program to get folks in the workforce, but also allow those programs to be used for those credits to be used for so they can transfer on if they want to continue their studies at KSU. So we're really excited about that. The KSU Board of Regents and Regent Patton has sent a note out to the rest of his board. Are planning to attend the trusteeship conference in Louisville that CP will host in September 19th and 20th. So we're looking forward to seeing them there and hope to see some of you all there as well. Our program review system is up and running from Gray Associates. This is a program that CP already had in place per its current program review process. This is a comprehensive system that will allow the institution to evaluate programs all the way down to the course and the instructor level to see what positive or negative financial contribution they have. And we have 50 licenses for KSU staff to use that program so they can get in there on a daily basis if they want to see the productivity of programs, to help plan for courses in the future, what need to be offered to students to help them meet their goals, and which programs and courses are financially viable. Development of the management improvement plan continues. KSU staff has been solely focused on getting the semester started, and that process is working well. And as you've heard a little bit about that today, but we will now focus more heavily with KSU staff on developing this management improvement plan to meet that November 1st deadline. We've had a lot of good conversations on that already. A lot of things have already happened will inform what's in that plan. We look forward to continuing to update you on that as well. Expenditure approvals continue. As you may recall from House Bill 250, CP is to approve all expenditures over $5,000 at KSU. I personally am approving those daily, and we're doing those on an expedited basis as need be. All the information provided for those expenditure approvals, including approvals at the appropriate levels, making sure that the amounts are available in the budget to cover these expenses. That's all occurring, and that process is working well. We'll continue to tweak it to make sure we can be more efficient, but we're very pleased at how that's going, and hope that continues.
Thank you so much. I'll start us out with some questions here. On your financial update report, where it talks about your current cash position, fill us in on the $23 million. When has that already flowed over?
It has.
And so that $23 million is included in this number.
Absolutely, it is.
Gotcha. It was.
Yeah, that was a prior year appropriation, and those funds, our board in its June meeting approved a last tranche of that fund those funds to be distributed, and those were distributed, so they are there.
So all of the $23 million is there and has been basically used to backfill.
Yes.
Is that correct? Okay.
Correct.
That-
That reserve amount, that cash balance amount that you see there, that includes the 23 million that's been provided.
Okay,
Correct.
thank you. Second question, on page 2 of your report, it says, several operational issues in accounting and finance have not yet been resolved, and we've had those updates in these committees in the past, but refresh our memories on what those are and what we need to do to correct those.
Good morning. Excuse me. I'm Greg Rush, Senior Fellow with CPE, and those relate to the hiring and personnel issues that Dr. Shields referenced earlier. They are a down controller and a number of accountants. They're working to fill those positions, and I think they're down one payroll person. And as they try to get these positions filled, that's put them behind on some basic things like reconciliation and month-end close. We are CPE is continuing to monitor, payroll runs, cash statements. As Travis mentioned, he's reviewing all expenditures, so we are still comfortable, but these things do need to get resolved so we can begin to have the kind of financial reports that the board needs and the legislature needs and CPE needs.
We have worked with Dr. Shills to bring stopgap people in until we get people hired. But as you well know, we knew it was going to take a while to make sure that the right personnel were there, and we knew it was going to take a while to get it in place. So you're liable to hear more of this until we get that truly into a place. And I know they do, but CPE wants to make sure too that we hire the right people, and until then, we probably are going to struggle, but we are getting it done though.
Thank you. This will be my final question for now. If you could update us, I'll split this question into two. The first one is if you could update us on what outside audits are currently happening. And I'm not talking about, your normal third-party audit. If you could update us on that. And then if you legally can comment, what outside investigations are progressing. Are there any financial investigations underway that you can update us on?
I'll start. You can fill in.
Okay.
The Auditor of Public Accounts is doing their review per the budget bill. So they're doing the work that they're required to do. They began their work in the last fiscal year and will continue on. And I think it has to be completed this fiscal year. Is that correct? Or they have
No, they have appropriation for last fiscal year, this fiscal year. They've testified that they hope to be complete with their examination by the fall of 23.
Okay.
And that's the only outside investigation that we're currently aware of at this time. So.
There are a couple of things going on with respect to some litigation, and I don't know what we can talk about on those or not. That might be a better question for the university staff.
Could you tell us, is that public litigation or private litigation?
It's public.
Public. Okay. Perfect. Can anyone comment on that further if they're?
I think Lisa Lang is here, the attorney for KSU. She's probably more apropos to do that.
Appreciate that.
Obviously, at this meeting, we don't need any details, but if we could just tell us what you know as far as what investigations are ongoing.
Yeah, Greg
and
Rush.
Identify yourself for the record, please.
Yes,
Thank
sir. Thank you. It's Lisa Lang. I'm the General Counsel at Kentucky State University, and I can confirm what Greg has already stated, which is we've got ongoing litigation, and there are investigations that are connected with that litigation. But that's all I'm comfortable at saying at this time.
So we cannot state who the parties are, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Fine. That's all we need.
Okay. Thank you.
Appreciate that. Co-Chair Tipton has a question.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Of course, in addition to the $23 million loan, there was an additional $15 million appropriated to be spent over the next 2 fiscal years. Have there been plans made looking into where that money might need to be invested? Have you looked into that so far, and can you give us any update on the status of those funds?
Absolutely, and I hopefully get a chance today to talk with the new interim president. But we have, as we argued for those dollars before to create what I call the future thriving of KSU, to ensure that it becomes a long-term way of actually building their finances on their own. So we've talked to several organizations, to be honest with you. One is the Magellan Group, who, if you know anything about Liberty University or Regent, how they created this huge online competency-based adult learner-focused area. We've had conversations with them. And as well as a couple other groups. I don't know if I should have mentioned names, but we just want to find out what they have. We probably would have to put an RFP out if the interim administration and the board agrees with us. So we think that's the way to go to help build what is a dearth in Kentucky in the online adult learner market in a way that we can use competencies to a better degree. So that's an area we worked on. The other area we are wanting to work on and now able to start the conversation since we got some administration on campus is to really build that teacher ed program to a degree that is state of the art. And one that would serve, once again, the needs of Kentucky and surely the needs of what a strong HBCU should be serving, in my opinion. Another item is that we have state government that is located here in town with KSU. We would love to create a state-of-the-art set of programming and with some micro-credentials that we've already talked to Lang about looking at that would serve KSU both in undergraduate and, serve state government, in both the undergraduate and graduate programming that would help. So these are the three areas we're strongly looking at. Once again, we haven't had an opportunity to fully discuss this with the interim administration yet, but we have done our due diligence, our work to identify some real good, excellent possibilities that we could get implemented hopefully in this fiscal year.
And those will be in the management improvement plan. The funding distribution is tied to meeting goals and benchmarks in the management improvement plan. So these are the areas that we're thinking about, and we just got to figure out exactly where we want to target those and what triggers will trigger, that will include in the plan that will release the funds. But no funds have been released yet. But we'll outline the parameters for release of those funds in the management plan due November 1st.
Okay. Mr. Chair, one more thing. It's good to see Board Chair Patton with us today. And I was wondering if he could just give us an update on the new board he's working with and their perspective on the initial movement that's taken on since you all have taken office position. Thank you. You're still muted, Dr. Patton. You're still showing up on mute. We're not hearing you for some reason.
Okay. Now,
there you are. There you are. Thank you.
good morning. Thank you, sir. The board, as you know, is up and running. We have a whole new board essentially, and the board is committed to the new administration and what we need to do to move our institution forward. We've already established committees that are advancing the cause of the institution. We're involved in professional development activities. We have an oncoming AGB, the Association of Governing Boards. Travis Powell has mentioned that members will be attending the CPE development program as well. So the board is really very interested and very excited about the prospects. We understand the challenges, but we know that that we have an administration in place that is dedicated to not just helping the institution respond to various aspects of the legislation, but our long-range future as well. So the board is very proactive. We are, as I said, we're structured, we're organized, we're moving, we're working with the CPE, our committees. And so we are very bullish on our efforts to improve the institution and move it forward. So that's sort of an overview of where we are now. We are very, I was very impressed with Dr. Johnson's analysis of the physical plant, because one of the items that the board is concerned about is the deferred maintenance issues in the entire campus. So we'll be looking at long-range plans of assessing each building on our campus not just the residence halls, but all buildings to see their efficacy, their viability, and we will have, through a master plan, to really address that particular matter, because as far as the infrastructure of the institution is concerned, it's almost just as important as the academic program. You can't expect students to come to a campus with crumbling infrastructure buildings. And so we need to look at all of our buildings, including the academic ones as well, and the board will be proactive in that way as well. So we are apprised of all legal aspects. We're active in that, all litigations. So the board is highly engaged. And I've always said over and over again right now, we are striving to be a high-performing board, and we're on our way to doing that with great engagement of all the members on the board who have pledged their support and their dedicated service for the improvement of Kentucky State University. So we're very pleased with that, and we're very pleased with Dr. Thompson and the CPE, their collaborative efforts to really move our institution forward.
Thank you, Chair Patton, and to your board members for your dedicated service. It's greatly appreciated.
Thank you.
Thank you, Co-Chair Tipton. We have no further questions. At this time, I would just like to thank KSU for coming forward, President Thompson and CPE. Great presentation. We'll see you back here again next month. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, committee.
Our next meeting will be held by Chairman Riley on Wednesday, September 21st. We do not have a quorum to approve the minutes. Hopefully the Commonwealth will survive another month without those approved minutes. Do I have a motion for adjournment?